right now we're going to welcome to the show, friend of the show, Kieran McAnulty. Kieran, good evening, sir.
How's it going?
Good boss.
Going very well. It's going very, very well. Yes, I'm excited about tonight's show. The problem is, normally, Kieran, when I say to Chewy, I don't know how tonight's show's going to go, it normally ends up being a cracker. So if I'm excited about tonight's show, Chewy, I just hope it's not going to be a pile of shit by the end of it. I don't hope.
Well, they're good topics, so you're on to a good start.
Yeah, good to know. Well, let's do this. This is from last night, but I do want to set the scene. It's only a 2-minute story. How about the three of us together watch this story, which is about the road being tolled, that road that's already been paid for, now being tolled, and then we can have a bit of a chat about it.
Kick in the guts. That's how concerned locals in the Tararua district are describing a proposal to put tolls on a long-awaited new highway. Major slips permanently closed State Highway 3 through the Manawatu Gorge in 2017. Its replacement between Woodville and Palmerston North is due to open next year.
Well, can I just clarify something with you, Kieran? Is this going to be the only road to get through there, or is it an alternate new road?
So there was a State Highway 3 through the Manawatu Gorge.
Yep.
And after a series of slips, it was deemed that the road couldn't be recovered, so it was closed permanently.
Yep.
And so there were two alternative roads, essentially glorified dirt tracks. One's called the Saddle Road and one's called the Pahiatua track. And at that stage, they were both council roads. So they were being used instead of the state highway. And so as local MP, I managed to get NZTA to agree to take over the maintenance, so at least the council didn't have to do it. They were never designed for that level of roading. In fact, the national government's original plan was to just say, oh, well, there's a road there, that'll do. It's like, no, hold on. So anyway, that's another story. But so there are two alternates. They're not safe. They're taking a lot of money to maintain every single year because they were never designed for this type of traffic. And the problem is if the toll goes on, they'll still be used. And
when you say they're council roads, does that mean this is therefore the only kind of state highway, the only central government road? Yeah, okay.
And it's
so there are a couple of goat tracks, but this is the only kind of nationally operated road of national significance. We could come up with a new term there.
Yeah,
that's what we're
the
saying.
only state highway connecting east and west of the Lower North Island.
All right, we'll keep going.
But as Sam Ollie found out at a community meeting, motorists are angry over the potential cost.
These Tararua locals unhappy and at times unable to be silenced.
Go put your toll where the sun won't shine.
Some so frustrated they were unwilling to leave the stage.
Folks, don't be blindsided.
After 7 years of construction, just months out from the Manawatu Tararua Highway's opening, tolling for the $620 million project has been proposed. $4.30 for cars, double that for large trucks.
And over. So that's $17 a day if you're in a truck going there and back. So that's going to be, what's that? 17 times 5 is $85 a week. So that's over $4,000 a year if you're a truck going backwards and forwards. If you're a delivery guy and you're doing it a few times, gosh, who knows? It's huge.
Overwhelming sense of betrayal, anger, disbelief, and a kick in the guts.
It is not right, it is outrageous, and it simply should not happen.
Commuters making 5 round trips on the road each week could pay more than $2,000 in tolls each year in a district where the median salary is just $26,000.
It is cruel, it is wrong, and it'll be on your heads if it's allowed to go ahead.
Yeah. There's huge struggle already with people even trying to get to Palmerston North.
The NZTA says it had to propose tolls because of the coalition government's requirements.
Under this government policy statement, the clear expectation has been to consider tolling.
But ultimately, Cabinet will have the final say.
If that money isn't raised, that's less money for road maintenance, it's less money for building other roads.
I think Chewy, this is one of those moments where I think they must have cut in a bit late, and because the first thing he would have said is that's less money for tax cuts and that's less money for landlords. But TVNZ must have clipped that and just accidentally cut that beginnings off. So
just an oversight, Pat.
Yeah, just a short oversight.
Roading infrastructure across the country, and so this is a proposal.
That piece of infrastructure, you have already paid for that with
your
taxes.
Local councillors now expect thousands of people will submit these forms before consultation closes next month. Residents now planning a protest too.
NZTA, we will not pay.
The Emir demanding a government U-turn. Sam Ollie, One News.
So you were there, yeah, Kieran?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, give us the dirty lowdown. What were you hearing when you were there? What was the? I mean, we can see what the vibe is, but expand on it for us.
Well, the meeting was originally billed as an opportunity for people to come in and find out how to make a submission, and they booked a supper room on the side of the stadium, and they figured out pretty quickly they had to open up the whole stadium, and it was chocker. Literally over 500 people. There was standing room only. It was the biggest public meeting I've ever seen, and when you consider the size of Woodville, it's massive turnout.
Yeah. Well, so and the general vibe, that was a fairly accurate representation. Was there anyone there who was like, no, this is how we got to go? Was there literally anyone saying, we accept this, we understand?
Hand on heart, didn't hear a single person speak in favour of the proposal. There was a real feeling of genuine anger. People were furious at this proposal, and they're reasonable people. They recognise that tolls play a role, and that they have a function moving forward. And I said on the night, look, if a new road was going to be built, and if the only way to get across the line is to have a toll, so that's the difference between this new road getting built or not, then sure. You don't bring it on a road that's a replacement for a broken state highway, bump it on 9 months before it's completed, when a community's been waiting 7 years without a state highway to connect it to its place of work. Because so many people from sort of northern Wairarapa, Tararua, southern Hawke's Bay go to Palmy to go to the hospital, to do their shopping, to go to work. And you heard the median income in the Tararua district is 26 grand a year. Yeah. And the government wants these people to pay over $40 a week just to get to work. Come on.
Did Waka Kotahi speak on the night?
Yeah, they did. And Linda, who you saw there in the TV show, I felt really sorry for her because at the end of the day, NZTA are doing what they've been told to. The government changed the rules in June and instructed NZTA to explore tolls on all new roads, and they've included this one in that. And there were a lot of questions, a lot of political questions aimed at the government, and the two national MPs didn't get up and made Linda from NZTA face the heat, and I thought that was pretty gutless, frankly.
The reason I ask that is you've said two things. You've said you didn't hear anyone speak positively of it. So are we to understand that therefore even Waka Kotahi weren't that excited about speaking positively about this thing that they're doing?
Well, I mean, public servants are pretty professional, so they just say it as it is. They spelled out that the government in June instructed them to do this, and that's why they're doing it. They've said that because they've been instructed, they've looked at it, they've assessed that there's going to be X amount required over maintenance over the next number of years, and that's why they've landed at $4.30. We've asked for a tolling assessment, so has the council, so have a number of other interested parties, and the government still hasn't released that information, which is an unusual thing when you're consulting. But look, at the end of the day, NZTA are doing what they're told to do. And there's a really big difference. I've had my beef with NZTA over the years. There was a stretch of road between Greytown and Featherston, which I don't believe should have been reduced to 80k, but that was their call. This is different. This is Cabinet's call. This is a political decision. And ultimately, the minister should have been there, frankly, and fronted up as to why he believes the toll should be there. The National Party local MPs were sort of in an impossible situation because if they said that they supported the toll, they would have been run out of town. But if they spoke opposing it, even though that would be reflecting the clear view of the community, then they would be speaking against their government. So they were in a difficult position, but fair play to them. They turned up at least. But yeah, the fact of the matter is, I see they've now said we've spoken to the minister. Well, the views of the community will be reflected in the submissions. Whether they listen to that is another story. And you heard, I may have not heard a single person at the meeting speak in defence of it, but you heard the minister speak in defence of it. And I sat next to the finance minister on TVNZ Breakfast this morning, and she spoke in defence of this proposal. So it seems pretty clear to me they've made their mind up, but we're going to have to keep pushing back.
Here's something I was wondering as well, right? I don't mean to bring you down here, Kieran, but Here's the results from the last election. If you have a look, Mike Butterick took it out for National, and if you have a look at the cumulative total between National, ACT, and New Zealand First, you get to maybe 60% of the overall votes. This region voted for this government to do this kind of thing. What are you hearing on the ground about people who voted for these guys that are now basically saying to your people, you can pay twice, guys. You can pay twice for this roads?
Well, the first point I would make is that at no point in the campaign did the National Party say they were going to do this. So I don't want to sound like I'm criticising people for the voting choice they make, because if people vote on the information they've got, and if the National Party are going to hide a bit of information like this, then the only conclusion you can come to is that they haven't been upfront. And they're also, the wide upper electorate, especially the Tararua district, has been traditional National Party supporters. Well, they're shitting on their own here, the National Party. Yeah. The Tararua district was basically the old Pāhia Tua seat, which was Keith Hollyoak's old seat. So it's a very strong National Party area. Incidentally, in those results, I got more votes than the National Party in that electorate, so I'm going to claim that one. But
by 100. 7,497 to 7,397.
Back in 2020, my family's hometown, first time a Labor candidate has ever won Eka Tahuna, and I won it by 4 votes, and it's the proudest thing I've ever done.
There you go. So, just to play fair on our side, there's the 2020 election, so you can shine your glory in that one as well.
That's much better. Thank you. Anyway, I know you didn't get me on to talk about that, but look, I care very deeply about this region, and this really is so unfair, and it's quite clear why they're doing it. They have no money because they've made the wrong decisions. They're cutting money out of health. They're cutting money out of education. They've stopped Kaingaroa building houses, and Simeon Brown can't add up. There's a $6 billion hole in his transport budget, and they need to try and find the money somewhere. And it's the people of Tararua and Manawatu and Wairarapa and Hawke's Bay that are going to get stung for it when the road has been paid for. And what's also interesting is that they're starting to, this road has been on track and on budget throughout. It's the largest earthworks project in the country. It's a massive job. And the fact that it's going to finish on time is a huge achievement. All of a sudden, the government is saying that it's $200 million over budget. But if you go into NZTA's information, when they decided to put a toll on it, there was no talk of an overcostings here. It was still on track and on budget. Now, all of a sudden, this $200 million figure has appeared as if to try and justify the toll. Now, I'm not accusing them of making it up, but it is interesting, isn't it, that they've only brought it out into the public sphere because they're getting a backlash about the toll. But it actually is irrelevant, because what project has kept to budget over the last 3 or 4 years? The fact of the matter is this road has been paid for. They should not put a toll on it because it's a replacement road for a broken one.
Yeah, we talked about this last night, that I spent a lot of time in Northland, and there's a new toll road that goes through and bypasses Orewa and bypasses Silverdale and those sorts of areas. And the thing is, you pay a toll to go up it, or you take Old State Highway 1 down through Orewa if you don't want to pay it, and it takes a bit longer, and that's a choice. When I asked you about that versus the goat tracks, it's like you don't, sorry, any government, you don't toll roads that are singular. If it's A to B and there's no alternative, you don't toll roads that are singular. But anyway, Chewy, you should be speaking, and I should shut up for a bit.
I just want to circle back on, look, National always hold up their support in the regions and the more rural areas as a, clear sign of the disconnect between the urban centres and the rural, really stoking that divide. That National are the only ones that can stand up for those rural folk rather than the latte sipping weirdos that live in Wellington.
Soy boys.
And then the first fucking opportunity they get, they pull this shit, knowing that it's a few people. It's not even that many people. We'll concentrate on Auckland and stuff like that. And if we bottle these people in their area and they can't afford to get out to the telephone so they can tell people how bad it is, then it's fine. I think it reeks of a disrespect that cannot stand. And can I just ask, you mentioned that the National MPs were at this meeting, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Did they get up to speak at all or field any questions at all?
All they said, they got up probably about 2 or 3 times, and all they said was, "Look, we're here to listen," and then sat down again. So, and it didn't go down very well. Tangi spoke, and you saw snippets of that in the One News, and he spoke incredibly well. He's a really talented guy. And then I got an opportunity to speak later, and we spelled it out really clearly, because I feel this is personal for me as well. I've stood alongside that region right from the start. I was there the day we announced the funding, and it was really a blueprint on how to build a road in this country. Phil Twyford and I went to the local marae. There was a partnership agreement signed with the local iwi, and part of that partnership agreement was that we would employ local people and use local businesses. And it was such a good partnership that the consent went through the Environment Court in a single day. There was it's a massive environmental focus. Wow. There was no controversy about this, no dissent. It was just a unified approach, a real example. When it was clear to me that those council roads were getting absolutely shafted, the Mayor and I went to the Minister, and he switched it over to NZTA. When the proposed name came out and it only mentioned Manawatu, we did the same thing, and they included Tararua. There's a whole 7-year-long story about working with local government, local communities, and central government, listening and delivering. Mm-hmm. And now there's a stark contrast to this minister, who is just ignoring them and disrespecting them by even considering this idea.
I want to ask something else as well. That's got to be
quite personally infuriating to get a project along the way that close to completion and then see it fumbled so badly right at the finish line.
Well, I mean, look, at the end of the day, in 9 months' time, there will be a fantastic new road that should be an example of how to build a road moving forward. I bet my bottom dollar this national government doesn't follow the blueprint, though. I can't imagine them coming up with a partnership with local iwi. The irony of the whole thing is this has been co-governance in action for 7 years and no one's noticed because it's just got on with it. But anyway, that's a different yarn altogether. But no, look, this is what was going to be a wonderful story for this region has now been soured completely.
It's always interesting to observe this current government when they don't want to be challenged on what's happening within a government department. They say, well, that's for the CE. That's for the chief executive to decide. We don't stick our oar in. That's for the chief executive to decide. But then it's been in the past, and I'm just trying to think, Chewy, maybe you can help me. There was something for the Deaf Foundation that was going to be stopped, and there was a huge hubbub about it. And the CE said, well, this is the funding we've got. But then all of a sudden, the government stepped in because it was an embarrassment. And so when they want to wash their hands, they go, oh, it's the CE. There's nothing we're going to do. It's the CE's decision. And then when it embarrasses them, they sometimes step in and they overrule the CE. I wouldn't be surprised if they stepped in and overruled this tolling reason, because this is a huge embarrassment for them, Kieran.
Well, I hope they do, because if they don't, there's going to be a lot of good people that suffer. And at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to prevent. I hope they see sense. I think they are stained by this in our region because it is an act of bad faith, and they haven't fronted up to explain themselves. They've hid behind NZTA. I know they have a history of making these funding cuts, and when the outcomes of those cuts happen, they blame the department and say it's operational. Shane Reddy tries it all the time with health. Yeah. They tried that with the disabilities, and you'll hear all about the impact of that later. They can't do that here, because this is a direct result of an instruction that they made NZTA in June. And they tried to originally, the first questions we asked Simeon Brown about this, all he had to say was that NZTA are conducting a consultation. Didn't mention that it was because he told them to, but that's come out now, and they can't hide behind them. If you can't hide, you should front up.
Yeah. Hey, we're going to move on shortly, but there is one other thing I'd like to throw at you, off topic, but I think in your wheelhouse. We found it very interesting during Māori Language Week, the kind of what feels like tokenism that the Prime Minister offered to Māori Language Week while he's trying to remove as much Māori language as he possibly can from government departments, and the Cultural Minister's removing it from invitations to matariki and that kind of stuff. I saw another post from the Prime Minister today, and I do want to share it with you, and it was this one. 131 years ago, suffragettes secured the right for women to vote, a powerful victory for women in New Zealand and around the world. New Zealand was the first country in the world to secure this right, and we should be proud that our country led the world in such an important pillar of democracy. There was lots of comments down below, such as these guys want to get rid of the Ministry for Women, but there was one particularly, I think, curt and accurate tweet made of it by this young fella, Pat Brittenden, that said, yes, thanks to the New Zealand Liberal Party, a party grounded in social liberalism and progressive legislation, once again we thank the left for one of the laws that we lead the world in and are still proud of today. How do you feel about that, Kieran?
Well, you only need to look at their record, really. There's so many examples of this government saying one thing and then doing another, and they are walking back on all the momentum that we built around pay equity and closing the gender pay gap. And I think that speaks volumes, certainly more than a well-crafted tweet that I guarantee he didn't write himself.
Which one of the 7 social media people do you reckon wrote it?
One of the senior ones, I reckon. It was a pretty good tweet. So it's probably one of the senior ones, I think. Hey, Kieran, it's always a pleasure, mate. We love having you on. Never be a stranger. And thank you so much for joining us tonight. No
worries. I appreciate you giving us the chance to talk about this because it's a really important deal for us. So thanks for that.
Excellent.
Not a
Catch
problem.
Kieran.
Anytime.
Cheers.
Thank you.